Hello, and welcome to The Alt Left.
Welcome back, everybody, to The Alt Left. This is episode 80. We're going to talk more about the nincompoopery going on. With me, as usual, are the usual suspects, Matthew Jumbo Johnson.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back.
And the great and good Reverend Dr. K.
Good evening, everyone.
We also have a couple of guests on tonight. So, number one, we do have listener Ashley, who's been longtime listener, first-time panelist.
Hi.
This is where you say hi. There you go. And with us also, same as last time we had her, is Heather Schmidt returning again from the Road episode.
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
Anytime.
happy to have you.
Thanks
happy
for
to have
being
you,
here,
Heather.
guys.
Wow, this was the most unwelcome part. They're like, "Oh, happy to have you, Heather." Ashley,
And also Ashley's here.
Well, I mean, to be fair, she's here to disagree with us, so we should pretty much shit all over her now, right? Get it out of the way.
That's true. So let's get to the schmitting, shall we? So
Tee us up.
So as we all know, dangerous, crazy, violent sociopath AOC was terrorizing the East Coast the other day and was luckily apprehended by the brave boys in blue with their magical invisible handcuffs while she did her horrible property destruction and wanton violence of hanging out at a liberal permitted protest.
Hey, in a street, okay, where there were
She
cars.
had to be led away in handcuffs,
Innocent
okay?
cars, god damn it.
So, hyperbole aside, what actually happened that everyone can at least agree on is a bunch of pussy hats got mad because the Supreme Court's a piece of shit and took away the rights from everybody in the country. And there was a protest in front of the Supreme Court where they blocked traffic, which is a time-honored tradition and a good protest tactic. AOC was part of it, which I'm glad she got off her ass and did something. It's actually a very commendable thing. And then she was led away to a shady, safe place and then sent home. Everyone on both sides has exaggerated this to say she's faking an arrest and she's really a space alien who hates Jews. And the other side is AOC walks on water and she was beaten by the police and hanged twice. And there really is no middle ground. Personally, my view is it's performative as shit. AOC had risked nothing. She is a famous and protected senator who has government protection, is well known, she's wealthy, she's powerful, she is the top of the food chain. And she went to do something that was quite legal, and when the police decided that she didn't have a constitutional right anymore, they gently asked her to step over there.
Yep.
And here's the thing, had that just been the case, it wouldn't have bothered me, because I gotta tell you, when the CNN headline hit my phone and said, like, AOC arrested at Roe protest, I was like, fucking A, good for her, right fucking on, that's awesome. And then I see the pictures of her, like, pretending to have handcuffs on and fucking walking with her hands behind her back.
Was she
like,
pretending?
Yes. Well, okay, I mean, dude, they could have been magical invisible handcuffs. I do not know that. But the photo seems to suggest they're actually not there. So, yes, that would be pantomiming.
But at what point did she say, like, I have handcuffs on? Or ever pretend it?
I didn't know you had to say you were pretending to be pretending.
Okay. Have you ever been led by police as a woman specifically?
No, I've been arrested by police. And I have been led around. And they never tell anyone. And I've been arrested with women. No one has ever been told to walk over here in front of them with their hands behind their back, because that's how you grab their gun.
Well, hold on one
your
second.
hands
Hold
at your
on. Time out. Before we get into this, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this, so a lot of the big questions are like, why are you even bothering with this? And there's a bigger issue at play here that this speaks to, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do this. And it's the performative nature of our elected representatives. What we're going to argue about here, it's not specific to AOC. This goes deeper. Every single elected supposedly left-leaning, and not even left-leaning, right-leaning senator, I don't care what political party you belong to. If you are an elected representative or a politician of any kind, you do this shit. And one of my biggest gripes is part of the reason the left can't get shit done is because instead of actually doing what we elect them to fucking do, they do this performative bullshit. So I want to be clear. I am not singling AOC out as the sole person that's doing this. I don't think anybody here will. But I think that this is like, for at least a lot of us on this side, this is like a smoking gun.
Yeah, and I will. But this feels like Nancy Pelosi in her high heels and an African scarf, kneeling for George Floyd.
I 100% disagree with you.
Or the singing. I felt like it was like the singing that they did a couple weeks ago, right? God Bless America.
Where they sang God Bless America after America took away their rights?
I will agree that is extremely performative. However, my question to you then, Chris, specifically, and actually Matt specifically, why aren't you upset at Ilhan Omar?
I am.
Because
Ilhan Omar walked the exact same way that AOC did.
She did.
She walked with her hands behind her back. Also, I can't think of the other representative's name right now. It's the Massachusetts lady. Also walked the exact same way. And
100%.
There's a man.
Presley.
I can't think of his name.
Was it
Presley? It might have been.
I
had
think
it
it was
written
Presley.
down
Presley, I think, is
Clark. I have the list
Clark
of
might
the
be
ones
it.
here. Yeah. What I thought was odd about it was that they said that they were doing this to spark action, but protests do not. I mean, you are you are sitting Congress people. Like, you literally have the ability to go and make laws and to work. Well, maybe, I mean, if you can work with the GOP, but work with your, colleagues to make laws. And so I agree that it's performative on their part, because, they're literally the ones in the position to do something. Like, you or I, like, okay, a protest for us is great, right? But they are the ones who could go out and do it, and they're just out faking handcuffs. I'm sorry, I think they faked the handcuffs too. And I am upset with Omar. And somebody was being arrested with AOC, like, next to her. And
Catherine Clark.
Yeah, and she did not have her hands behind her back.
Correct. Now, me being a woman, I have been told before, if it's a mass group, so when I was in high school, we had a really big gang fight, and because there were so many kids and they had to call in 2 different police departments and they could not wrangle the amount of people that were in the area at the time, it was easiest to tell each kid, put your hands behind your back and walk that way. And if you weren't doing that, then they knew that they specifically had to handle you. So if specifically they say, put your hands behind your back and you walk, and they're arresting 17 Congress people, and I think the Capitol Police Twitter themselves said it was 37 people in total, they're trying to suss out who is going to be the problem child, so to speak, of what they have to deal with. And also, that's a mass group of people, technically. I don't know how many Capitol Police were there. They obviously more than likely didn't have to deal with anything, but the easiest protocol, so to speak, is going to be do this and walk.
I don't believe that for a second.
But real quick,
AOC
specifically came out and said that didn't happen. She said it was her idea.
To put her hands behind her back?
She put her hands behind her back to de-escalate the situation. When it was never escalated to begin with, literally cops came over and were like, hello, famous rich lady, can you please stop and go over there by the tree? And we're going to take you away. Let's just make this not a problem. Let's just go over here.
Yeah, we're just going to escort you.
And they escorted her away gently. And then, at de-escalating the situation, they all, Ilhan Omar, AOC, and whatever his name is, made sure to stop holding their hands in a submissive pose, to fist bump the fucking cameras.
Yeah.
So
then they know that they didn't have handcuffs on. So then that destroys the illusion in itself. Because
no, I never said that a wizard convinced them they had handcuffs. I said they were trying to act like it for photographs. Then they wanted different photographs taken.
You have to pick a narrative then.
No, I don't. If someone is presenting at the Oscars and they do a wardrobe change, that doesn't mean they never had a dress on to begin with. It means they changed for a different visual.
Well, here's where I brush up against this. So I get where you're coming from. And a lot of people were making the same argument. I was willing to go there until she came out and cited that she did it on purpose. She came out and gave a reason. I did this to de-escalate the situation and avoid a resisting arrest charge. That's why she did that. The problem, and that is at that point that I immediately went, nope, she absolutely faked it. Because if that is your goal, you do not turn around and quickly raise your hand up. I watched the video. It was fast. It was a sudden movement by any definition. She raised her hand up to wave to the crowd.
I won't disagree that she doesn't have privilege. Like, she obviously has privilege as one being a member of, a political house, and 2, by like her position and standing. However, she does have the disadvantage of being a woman, being smaller, and being overpowered by a police officer. So I
which I agree with.
personally
Yeah.
would 100% take a submissive pose. And if someone calls to me from the sidelines and I get a quick like burst of, you know what, I feel kind of ballsy for a second, sure. But I think to say she is specifically faking being handcuffed is where you both are going too far into stretching, because it becomes then a litmus test of what qualifies as being a good enough protest for you.
So, but that's a separate thing. So we already conceded we liked the protest. We thought it was good that she did it. My biggest issue is that when you add this performative bullcrap on top of it, it immediately takes away any good you've done, because what you've now done is it gives the right all the ammunition they've got to start saying the arrest was fake, which it wasn't, and all this other bullcrap. But for us, what it does is just highlights what we've already believed about you to begin with, is that ultimately you've become just like every other politician in there, where ultimately you're insincere. While you talk a good game, and I'll give her, she is better at being at the protests and showing up than any other politician out there right now. Her and the squad are good at showing up at the protests, but it ends up ultimately being lip service, because the moment it's time for them to get in there and apply legislative power, they kowtow to the centrists every single time. They get in line behind Pelosi, and this act is what demonstrates it to me. Now, here's the thing. I will absolutely concede that this is speculative, right? I don't know what AOC was thinking or doing. I can absolutely concede that. But what is more likely? That she did this because she said X and then immediately took an action that went against what she said she was doing this for in the first place, or B, that she's just a politician playing the game and trying to score extra points?
I think I'm in the minority on this. I don't know that I necessarily applaud them for going to protest. And I think that's to the point of, how does it translate into substantive legislation that is passed and actual change? Is it on this issue? No, I don't think it is. Or at least it hasn't been.
So I think that is relatively unfair. Not that it isn't completely fair, because I'm sure AOC, Ilhan, everybody can be doing more. Anybody can always be doing more than what they're doing. But this goes into the previous argument of reform versus revolution. And if they are considering themselves reformists, they have to work within the framework that they have. And if they have to work within the framework they have, she can only like support and, co-sign so many bills that go nowhere, when 194 Republicans are saying, no, you absolutely can't have access to contraceptives, or no, 152 of them are saying you can't have access to, gay marriage as a right, and we can't codify Roe v. Wade, and we can't do all these things. If she is a reformist, which I think is where she falls in camp, then she can only do so much within that camp.
She chooses to only do so much in that camp. A reformist, it's not genetic. You choose if you're a reformist. She has chosen to be ineffective.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think that she is making that choice to only go so far, right? To try to fundamentally, you cannot, in my opinion, reform politicians, politics, the government, and political parties from within. You just can't. And that's based on my own experience working in the Democratic Party. You get to a point where these types of events, like what happened with her, is that you spend all your time on this, right? She's spending all of her time arguing about whether or not she was handcuffed and, showing up at these events, but again, not doing the work to reform, probably because there's not much you can do. I just don't think that that's even possible.
Well, and even as a reformist, she can fucking write, draft, and put a bill on the floor anytime she wants. Does that mean it's going to pass? No. But if I was a congressperson, I would be drafting and placing a bill every single fucking day on the floor and letting every single person die on that hill on the side of it. I would be doing everything I could. And I'm sorry, real quick, a protest where they immediately bowed down when the police said, hey, you shouldn't be here. I'm sorry, protest doesn't do anything. Peaceful, permitted protest is ineffective in its entirety. Okay? That is where we are at as a nation. Walking down the street and holding a sign does nothing. Lawmakers don't care. I would love to see any evidence in history showing where it does.
How long or how many years, since you know a lot about history, how many years did it take for the civil rights movement to go from basically 0 to 100? How many,
That wasn't
like,
that was done through boycottings, lynchings, and burning of buildings.
yes, how many years is the question? And did it start with the original boycotts, or did
A
it
little less than
end up
200.
into Holy Week, where they absolutely burned down an entire city because Martin Luther King was murdered?
Yeah. They
That's
burned
where it
down cities
ended,
and
but that's
looted
not
and
where it
rioted.
started. And I think that everywhere has to have a place
Hold
to
on,
start.
where does it start? Because it doesn't start with picket lines. It starts with slave revolts.
Yes, that's where it started, but that was a 7 or 8 year long process, is what I'm
No.
saying.
This was a 200-year-long process. We were
Okay.
talking about the emancipation of people who were being executed by the state and enslaved. And that
I
didn't
was
end
talking
after the
specifically
Civil
about
War.
the civil rights movement of the 50s, not that far back, but
Yes,
that's
but
200 years.
But that's the problem with the civil rights movements. You can't say it started on January 5th of 1958. Like, it doesn't work that way. It is a movement of the emancipation of a people, and it hasn't ended. It's still going because we still have
Correct.
people of color being executed by police. It is not a small movement. And you want to talk about specifically the one from the 60s involving Martin Luther King? But again, where's the start date on that? There isn't. It's an Mobius process.
Yes.
And yes, there
But
were
the point
protests.
that I'm making is that it's an ongoing thing. And so to discount protests that are in the streets, you're upset that it's just pussy hats walking and it's just this. People have to start somewhere. And no revolution, well, okay, before you jump at me with your history degree, no revolution starts in the sense of like one day I walk outside and I throw like a Molotov cocktail at the Capitol building here where I live. I'm not going to say my city, but we tried that and somebody burned themselves and we went no farther. The next thing they did was they broke into the mall and then nobody ever had anything to do with that protest again because it was too far too fast. Some people have to be gradually brought into seeing the light. And if the sitting outside doesn't work, eventually it brings you to the revolutionary. And I personally am more of a reform / revolutionary. I believe in both because I believe that you have to have the right spark to get you to the actual place where you're trying to go. And if people are looking at small scale protests and they're saying, oh, this isn't enough, and they escalate and they continue to escalate until we get to where we want to be, great. But that doesn't mean that we're going to start at 100 and then everything is going to be awesome over, like the course of a day.
I think I get where you're coming from. I do think there is a place where peaceful protest can be successful, but I think it means absolutely nothing if there isn't violence, the threat of violence to back it up. I'll go back to the example of the French. They'll protest in mass, but they'll bring out the fucking guillotines and let everybody there know that if they don't get what they want, they'll fucking riot. And if they don't get what they want, they'll fucking riot. I think I would have more respect for all of our protests if they ever accomplish anything, but largely they don't. And that's because for all the traffic blocking and mobilizing that people will do, at the end of the day, they'll go home. Nothing really was done. A lot of people showed up and told the world they were pissed. And then when the time comes to do anything, they vote for Joe Biden and sit in their home drinking tea and eating brunch. And the spark you're talking about, it doesn't come from peaceful protests. It comes when white people and people that are privileged are finally are seeing their privilege taken away. That's when it happens. And I hate doing this, and especially lately, because a lot of people are going to say, well, he's just a Jimmy Dore Republican now. But the truth is the reason we had the January 6th riots is because there is a group of people in this country that feel like their privileges and their culture is being eradicated. And so they got pissed and rioted. Now, again, I don't agree with what they were doing. At least I don't agree with the reason they were doing it, because they wanted to overturn a free election and install a fascist. That's bullshit. I will be against that every day. But it would fucking warm my heart if a bunch of leftists did the same shit to the Supreme Court the moment that they pulled that decision. That's what I want to see. I want to see leftists find their balls and do that, but they won't. Because at the end of the day, most leftists, like we're talking about Women, yeah, but most of them are going to live in like California or New York or states that aren't going to lose their right to an abortion. Most of the people that would need to be angry to do this aren't losing anything. It's all the people in the red states that are losing it, and they're not going to riot.
And let's also point out, like, somehow popular culture has decided that the only thing that's happened recently is Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court has set the Constitution on fucking fire in the last month. And the only thing AOC is willing to fucking risk invisible handcuffs for is her rights to abortion because she's a woman of child rearing age. And that's the difference between a leftist and a fucking liberal. A liberal gives a shit about one or two things that personally involve them. A leftist stands in coalition with all oppressed people. And AOC does not have the energy for any of this shit. Supreme Court today fucking threw out the ability for Biden to restrict the abuse of detainees. We have fucking, I say this every goddamn podcast, we have concentration camps on our borders.
They never went away.
Concentration
They're still
camp
there.
Force. Yeah, we have Proud Boys and the Klan attacking clinics. We have shit going on all over the place. The Supreme Court decided you don't have a fucking Fifth Amendment right. Sorry, Fifth Amendment. You don't have a Fourth Amendment right if you're within 100 miles of the international border line. Is AOC up on the steps for that? Nope. Because it doesn't fucking affect her. She's fine. She's rich and comfy. Oh, but hold on. She might lose the right to an abortion, and women who look and people she identifies with are losing a right. And now she has some fucking empathy. Now she's willing to actually, well, not really risk anything, but now she's willing to get off her fucking ass and stand in the sun for an hour or two until she's gently led away to a tree. Like, then she'll be willing to get off her fucking ass and do something. But where the fuck has this energy been this whole time? Where's it been? Where was her outrage when Biden just fucking bowed down and shook hands with the guy who executed a fucking American journalist? Is there any outrage? Has she said one word about it? Fuck no, she doesn't. She doesn't give a shit, and she's a fucking liberal who doesn't do anything. That's my problem, is this is the time suddenly, oh, AOC, how brave, how amazing. She hadn't done shit. She got off and put on her fucking comfy shoes for an hour and a half. That's all she fucking did.
Which, by the way,
she was
just to
well,
and just to illustrate that,
right?
yeah, there are 46 Republicans that today voted in the House to codify same-sex marriage. So what she did isn't even that unique. Her Republican colleagues are willing to do the same thing for shit that affects them. The guys that were speaking out about it were like, yeah, well, my son's gay, so I'm in support of this, have been for a while. And most of them that voted that way have somebody they know personally that's gay. The moment it affects you, that's when you fight for it. And that's what every politician does. And that is the reason I wanted to have this conversation, because I am tired of the left propping up their messiahs, just like the Jimmy Dore cultists, just like the Trumpers. The centrists and the progressives do it too. For them, it's fucking Bernie and AOC. My position on politicians, I don't care who they are. I think Bernie's cool, but it goes from I have no emotional attachment to them whatsoever to bring out the fucking guillotines. That should be the range of every politician. You should not love a politician. You should not like a politician. They are there to do a goddamn job that you hired them to do, and all of them are failing at that job. The only ones that are doing the job they were hired to fucking do are the conservatives.
So I think Chris brought up a really good point about, AOC not being personally affected, or she doesn't, stand up until she feels personally affected. I think that a lot of people in the Democratic Party, which probably more just in the United States, we've seen different now than the civil rights movement, is people have lost that empathy, right? Like we saw with the pandemic, like people are totally unable, just like as a culture, to put themselves in other people's shoes anymore. Like to me, it's been so startling to me in the last 2 years to see people just are unable to even fathom that others do not have the same privilege that they do. And I think that that's what we're seeing with AOC only standing up for something that personally affects her, right? And we're seeing that with a lot of Democrats. I see that with a lot of local Democrats, right? They, like with COVID, they only until it is personally affecting them do they start to go back and say, oh, maybe I should put my mask back on. I know someone that has COVID, right? And it's that like lack of empathy now, which is so different than, say, the civil rights movement. That's why for me it's hard to compare like what is going on in America now with things that have happened in the past, because we as like a culture have totally changed, right? And I don't know that we have like the people that give a shit enough to like go the distance.
But I think
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to express earlier is you're 100% right. It's, white women are standing up because now we don't have access to abortions. It's personally affecting us. But I think that everyone needs that one moment of, oh no, this does actually personally affect me, to have clarity and vision, because that's what happened to me specifically. Not saying that that's the universal litmus test for, how you actually get your shit together and start being an empathetic person. But if we litmus test people who are closer to our side than litmus testing people who are farther from our side, I think we're alienating a base that we could pull in instead of push them out.
I don't know that that's true. I don't know that you're alienating anyone. I think that protests have a tendency to, as Chris and Matt said, do very little to change anyone's opinion that isn't already there. How many times has a protest actually changed your mind
Yeah.
to do anything, whether it was for or against something that you believed in? Did it ever sway you? Did the guy out in the street, waving a sign says, Jesus saves? Did that ever affect you? Like,
Actually, one
ever?
time. No, so I don't know, Chris. Do you remember this?
I don't know. I don't remember you being saved.
Oh, okay. So do you remember the Women's March when we went together?
Yes.
That was the first time Chris and I had a discussion about gun control, that was the discussion that swayed me to your side of gun control.
Yeah, but
Yes, but that
that's
was a
not
conversation.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I
that was a
know.
conversation. It was a good one.
I'm
Matt's
talking
lost
about
the song.
the actual protest itself.
Yes,
You were
I
talking
know.
No.
I told that story to illustrate your point.
And it wasn't even about the protest you went to.
Here's the thing. My point is, it isn't even that
Like-
protests are bad. Here's like, and I'm
No,
not
protests are great.
I'm not saying protests are
I
bad.
know. I know.
I know. What I am saying is they're ineffective. The only thing protests can be effective in is in building a coalition, is in getting people together, is in you can find people you agree with and start making networks. For that, it's
Yes.
great.
Yes.
But that's it. In terms of protesting causing change, right? Okay, let me give you an anecdotal story that happened just last week. Went to a Planned Parenthood to defend it from a Proud Boy march coming to attack anyone coming into it, right? So they had a little march, and there's another group. They're here in LA. They're also in DC. They're also in Chicago. I think there's one in New York too. They're called the RevComs, which is short for Revolutionary Communists. Which, by the way, they are not revolutionary nor are they communists. They're a fucking cult. They're literally leftist Scientology. And if you talk to any leftist in a city where these guys exist, it's kind of like a rite of passage. Like, oh yeah, I remember when I was part of it. It's like atheists in the Christian church. It's like, oh yeah, I remember when I did that for a little bit. They are gross and they are awful and they work with cops and they get people kettled and they steal money and they rebrand themselves to get into to co-op movements, right? So they were the RevComs. When Trump was in office, they rebranded themselves as Refuse Fascism, right? And then now Trump's out of office, and now they have rebranded themselves as Rise Up for Abortion Rights. They fundraise off this shit. They pass around coffee cans, collect money.
Christ.
None of it goes to abortion causes, and it all goes to Bob Avakian, the cult leader of the RevComs. You can Google this guy. It's fucking disgusting. He's basically L. Ron Hubbard of communism. and his claim to fame was he worked with the Black Panthers for 5 minutes in the 70s. But he's a fucking old white boomer who's in hiding, who's rich, and literally this is a cult of personality, and it's super gross. Anyway, the reason I say this is this group immediately co-opted that movement, brought a shit ton of cops into the area to get people fucking doxxed, and then took over the movement, stood in the street, and told everyone that by holding a sign, I shit you not, this is what they said, that they were changing things, and this is what the fascists really fear, is people with signs together in the street. No. All you did was make the situation way more dangerous and shitty. And we have this idea in America, and I don't even blame liberals for it, because we're taught this since we're children. We are taught that slaves were freed because Abraham Lincoln was a nice guy and killed enough Southerners. Abraham Lincoln was a piece of shit and a fucking vile racist. No, he was not. Abraham Lincoln cared about tax money. But number two, that, the civil rights movement was solved when Martin Luther King hugged enough people and protested nonviolently. That's what did it. That's what saved the day. Gay marriage was solved with Pepsi and flags in the street. None of this shit is true. The civil rights movement was caused by burning buildings, people looting, people fighting back, the Black Panthers arming themselves and scared cops. That's what fucking did it. Riots in the streets after the government assassinated Martin Luther King. Malcolm X's followers being willing to do anything for their liberation by any means necessary. The fucking Black Liberation Movement. Assata Shakur. These are people who actually did the work, not people holding the fucking signs. That didn't do shit except get on the news, which didn't mean anything. You can watch videotapes of and audio tapes of Johnson constantly mocking these people, and it just made him want to fuck them over more. It doesn't solve anything. We didn't get gay rights because people waved banners in the streets. We got gay rights because someone got so pissed that cops were fucking killing them that they started throwing bricks through cop car windows in Stonewall. That's what started that process.
It may not solve anything, but do you not think that normalization of an issue and having the issue broadcasted out, finding other people who are willing to be out in the streets who may not have been willing to be out in the streets before is not helpful?
100%, but I want people who aren't personally affected by it to do it as well. And when someone shows up, it only shows up for something that affects them. I don't give a fuck. So when AOC shows up because the government is taking away the rights from her body, hey, her outrage is legit and it's correct. But where the fuck is that energy for everyone she doesn't identify with? It's non-existent. Labor unions contact her, not in my district. She has supported Biden. She's supported Pelosi. She's completely kowtowed to the Democratic Party on every single fucking issue. Does nothing about concentration camps. Does nothing about torture prisons. Does nothing about U.S.-led wars on terrorism. Doesn't give a shit about any of it. But hands off my fucking uterus. That's where she draws the line. I'll let Obama steal $2 billion from Afghanistan and start every fucking child there and say nothing about it when he creates a fucking famine and takes the money and gives it to 9/11 victims and charities that support the DNC. That's fine. But I draw the line at abortion rights. That's why AOC is bullshit and fake. She is performative because she only cares about things that will get her fundraising, things that will get her votes, or things that personally affect her. That does not make you a good person. That makes you a fucking shill. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I totally agree. The thing that's really frustrating me too about Roe is that a lot of people, maybe not AOC, but like Biden and Pelosi and, they're trying to make it about other things to get people to identify with it, right? Like talking about how, this isn't just about women's rights. This is about your right to privacy. See, you should care about this. Like, why do people not care about the women, the abortion aspect of it? Like, why do people need to have that?
In fairness, I feel like I've never been valued other than having a uterus. So, I mean, if
I was just going to say,
trying to convince somebody like, hey, if you would also like to have privacy in your healthcare, by all means. I mean, I'd like a couple of people on my side, even if it's not because they have a uterus.
Well,
but that's what
matters.
Like,
culturally, we're like, as dudes, we're raised to see women as lesser. Most women are raised to see themselves as lesser. Like, as a culture in the United States, it's completely anti-woman. So much so that even people that are anti-woman will think of themselves as pro-woman. Yeah. Like, it's the kind of like the passive aggressive shit. Oh, I'm totally pro-woman. Have you ever voted for anybody that was a woman? No. Have you ever voted for any legislation that helped women? No. Have you ever voted for anything that did anything for women? No, but I love my wife.
Right.
Half of them don't even love their wives. Have you met men?
Yeah.
Right.
A couple.
Well, and I think most of us here all have, like, as far as the guys here, I know Chris and I have similar backgrounds. Like, we really didn't have dads in our lives. We were raised by our mothers, had our sisters. Like, we were raised in a very feminine environment. Kay is not a normal human being at all. I don't even know why he is the way he is, but he agrees with us. So that's all that matters. Sometimes.
Someone stole his teddy bear when he was a child.
I had a very Norman Rockwell upbringing.
Wow.
I'm the anomaly, apparently.
Well, but you're also a good person who's capable of empathy, and you can see if somebody's going to do something that sucks and other people are saying, don't do that to me. You're like, hey, maybe we shouldn't fucking do that to them.
Maybe we shouldn't do that. Yeah.
But I don't care about anecdotal individuals. If you care about people and you care about oppression, you care about it across the board. I am a cisgendered, straight, white male. I give a fuck about abortion rights. I give a fuck about immigrant rights. I give a fuck about police killing black people. I give a fuck about wealth inequality. I give a fuck about unionization. And I give a fuck that the Supreme Court is a panel of cocksucking wizards who get to decide that we don't have power in this country to do anything. The fucking federal government decides how immigration works. Not anymore, because the Supreme Court said no. White power. That's what fucking happened. And we are deciding, and people need to unite across that front. And again, if the only time you get off your fucking ass and do something, and again, minimal risk, if you get off your ass to do literally the bare minimum, the only time you do that is when it actually affects you. Because let's face it, she only shows up at protests and at rallies when she's campaigning. This is the first time it has not been a campaign thing for her, is when it personally affected her. So no, she's fucking selfish. And I really liked AOC years ago when she started, because I think she actually did give a shit. But now she's just become a politician and she's riding that fame carpet. And I'm sorry, Ilhan Omar is 10 times the leftist AOC will ever be.
Yeah,
I agree.
Ilhan Omar is still willing to fight the Democratic Party. AOC is not. Yeah. She has given up. She folded like a lawn chair, just like Bernie did.
I wouldn't even put AOC in the same, like, not that I'm trying to absolutely coattail ride AOC here, but I'm more mad at the woman from Georgia. She was going against Brian Kemp.
Oh, what's her name? She got everyone to Stacey Abrams.
Yes, who is now pro-cop. I would call her a performative activist in the sense of we need everybody to vote and do this stuff, and then not even the next year she's saying, oh, we need to bring up cops' salary and pay them more and fund them more, and is not speaking out in the same way. Is AOC performative? Yes, but is performativeness sometimes not allowable? That's the wrong word.
Excusable?
Yes.
Yes. What Chris was saying is when it's excusable. If your performance is putting bills out every single week, even though you know you're going to fail because it makes everybody else stand up and vote yes or no, that's completely 100% performative.
She's put out bills, though.
Not nearly at the level.
Yeah, but how many?
And again,
she could introduce an abortion bill anytime she wants.
Did she not?
No.
I just looked
she
up.
has.
I know she put up the gay rights one and a different one.
And again, if you want to talk about Stacey Abrams being pro-cop, if you recall the State of the Union where Biden stood up there and said, don't defund the police, fund the police, and AOC fucking clapped and cheered for him.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is anyone here pro-Biden?
No, but AOC is.
Okay. Just making sure. I was just checking.
Oh, God, no, not in this chat.
I was waiting for Kay to speak up.
No, he's not pro-Biden at all. Yeah.
I'm so done.
Even a liberal?
I was so pro Biden at the beginning. I was more like anti-Trump, right? And so I like forced myself to be pro Biden, and that was also when I was running for city council as a Democrat, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is our like ticket, like this is our guy, yeah, he's gonna do all these things, yeah, and it's like I brainwashed myself, right? And then just maybe like a month later, it was like, oh fuck, I just remembered who he is.
Oops, this guy signed the crime bill.
Oops.
Daisy.
My bad.
You
Yeah,
can't
But-
feel bad.
but
I work
Trump-
for the North Carolina Green Party, and they're the worst, literally. So don't feel bad. I would much rather work for a Democrat than the North Carolina Green Party.
Yeah.
I mean, should we pull up the voting records of North Carolina Democrats? Because I don't believe you believe that. Because let me tell you what North Carolina Democrats have done. There's a reason you're a fucking right to work you're a right to work state.
Look, North Carolina's number one in being the lowest educated state. Okay, that's all I've got going for me.
I mean,
No,
you've
there's-
got, you've
Oh,
also
that
got
was
Tennessee.
Very
well,
strange how you put that, by the way. We're number one in being the lowest educated.
I mean,
We're number one.
I think
We're
that's
number
because
one.
South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, Louisiana, they just can't even take the tests.
Well, let's
So I
not
think they're
let's not
inadmissible.
forget what just happened
south
in
of
Tennessee
North Carolina.
this
It
week.
gets worse.
I
But what
don't
just
think
happened
they
in
even
Tennessee
offer
this
the
week?
tests there.
did you guys read about
No,
this?
what happened in Tennessee?
Oh, so it's now legal for people to put up signs that say "No Jews" and to bar Jews
Oh,
from
yes.
adopting children.
What?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
What?
because this is.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't hear about? Yeah. So
No.
I remember reading about this. Yep.
a court in Tennessee has just ruled that it is completely legal for people to put signs that say "No Jews" in their public spaces, their stores, shit like that. And also, it's perfectly legal to deny Jews the ability to adopt based on nothing more than the fact that they're Jewish.
Well, yeah.
Got
What do you
it.
want? More
So-
Jews?
So can I put up signs that say no Christians?
Jeez.
No, that'd
Do
be
it.
wrong.
Do
That's
it.
against the founding fathers.
Do it.
Jeez.
In God
And
we
here's the
trust.
thing.
Didn't go on the money until 1950s.
This will probably get challenged. And with this Supreme Court, I have no problem believing they'll let it go. I have no problem believing that at this point.
No, not at all. You could put a bill up saying that you can kill people as long as you do it in the name of Christ, and they'll say yes.
Yep. And that's the other thing. It's like everything that's being done is being wrapped up in religious freedom in some way or some form. Like
Fuck your
we are
religious freedom.
Here's the thing. I don't agree with that. I know that's a weird take to have.
Because you can't
As-
have
as-
religion for freedom. You can't have freedom for religion and not have freedom from religion.
Yeah,
has to go both
that's the
ways.
thing. Like the moment
Yep.
you start oppressing people based on their religion, you've created an oppressed class, and it's going to backfire. It always does.
And I agree. And when they actually will stop trying to oppress people based on their religion, then I will respect their religion more.
Here's the thing: you don't have to respect their religion. I respect the idea that they're free to practice their religion so long as it doesn't interfere with anybody else.
Agreed.
But that's not what's happening, though.
Exactly.
Their religion is being used to tell everyone how to live their life, and that's
They-
where I draw the fucking line.
They
But I will
use it as
yeah.
a device to tell people how they can and can't live their lives. So when you interject your religion, then fuck your religion.
I don't know. The
But-
Supreme Court's been doing it plenty without a religious argument.
Yeah, it's because they know how to talk well enough to actually
I mean, when you cite judges from the Salem witch trials, you got
Yeah,
a
but
pretty
that's the
strong
thing is,
foundation.
again, we have decided that political appointees with magical powers get to override the executive and the Senate. That's what we've decided. We let them go over whatever they want to do. The Supreme Court is now the ultimate land, and we can stop that anytime we want. We can decide that a panel of fucking 9 dinosaurs doesn't get to overrule the will of the people at any time we want. But instead of just standing around the Supreme Court, how about we burn it down? Just a thought. You can't Supreme Court without a Supreme Court.
Against my own point, the Senate did pass a law pretty quickly saying that we can't protest outside of Supreme Court Justice's house. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
oh yeah, it was real fucking quick.
And all the
Very
statements,
fast.
Damn near instant.
and all of the condemning people that went to that steakhouse that Kavanaugh was at. You see all these
I
politicians.
didn't even see a protester.
Yeah, all these politicians are tweeting about how they, a man should be allowed to eat his steak in peace, and it's like, shut the fuck up.
And you want to know why they're
happening
all
to
men's
for
rights
it?
in this
Because
country?
they're scared it's going to happen to them.
Then
In the
eat your
South,
steak in
I
your
can't
own
even
fucking
eat a steak
kitchen,
in peace
And
because I have
fucking
short
choke on it.
hair.
right?
Well,
People
then
walk
don't
up and
become
they're
a
like, "I'm
politician.
sorry, are you a man or a woman?"
Oh my God. Yeah, and that's the thing. So the Senate, real fucking quick, wrote that bill about not being allowed to protest outside the House, and it's like, you can do that really quickly, and yet you cannot. AOC cannot do any. I mean, what has she done? Really?
Yeah.
What?
She hasn't.
Because
the thing is, if they wanted to, they would. If they
Yeah,
cared
exactly.
about
And
us,
that's the
they
point.
would.
Yes.
But they don't care about us. They don't want to because it's not in their own best interests.
Right. And that's the point. The things that they want to do, they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Period.
It's real fucking quick if they want to do it.
Period. Yeah.
It's always fast, but I think it's still important enough to have the spotlight on something, because without having the spotlight on anything, America has the world's shortest, attention span for anything. And if they're not out there doing anything, George Floyd protests happened in 2 days, I think, here in North Carolina, where I live locally. Again, I don't want to say my city, but they happened in 2 days. They broke into the local mall, and then it was done. Nobody
Sure.
ever did anything ever again.
But what's the problem with focusing on one thing? Is that everything else falls through the fucking cracks. Everything else gets ignored. So while we're focused on Roe v. Wade, while it's important, and I believe that we need to have a spotlight on it, you can't forget all of the other things that are also happening. Like Chris was saying, fucking Fourth Amendment. You know how many people live within 100 miles of the international border of the U.S.?
80% of the
Yeah.
population.
Actually, it's two-thirds. I just looked it up. 200 million people live within 100 miles.
Yeah.
Jesus.
What the fuck? It literally affects 2/3 of the entire country, but nobody gives a shit about it. Nobody's heard nothing about it.
Yeah.
Because
Technically, the ocean counts as a border too, so half of North Carolina.
That's why. No, the 200 million is accurate because most people live on the coasts.
And that's the problem with the Democratic Party, I've always thought, is the inability to walk and chew gum at the same time, right? They
They can't do it.
They cannot do or focus on more than one. And that goes to the politicians, and it goes to the base, like, the Democratic base, the voting base. They cannot focus on more than one thing at a time. They just...
That's why Roe v. Wade fell through the cracks, because we were too busy giving money to Ukraine.
Yes, exactly. And look at how quickly now, though, they are bringing bills, like the gay marriage bill today. Was that today?
Yesterday. It was gay marriage and interracial marriage. Those are things. But here's the thing: it's still iffy if it's even going to pass. And let's keep in mind too.
Yeah, because it passed the House, but it's got to go through the Senate.
157 congresspersons, people, whatever, voted against it. They put their names on record as being against not only gay marriage but interracial marriage.
Interracial marriage, yeah. But
Clarence Thomas was shockingly quiet about that.
Oh, and the birth control. They did the birth control as well. That was the other one that I was thinking of. Look at how quickly they were able to get those through. Well, we're not focusing on other things right now. Biden is got COVID, and so he's not, out trying to get more money for cops, and Ukraine has their money right now. So it's like, they can focus on those things, but Roe just fell through the cracks, because they cannot.
But they're elected to do just that. Like here,
I know.
It's the same argument. Like if you don't want to be caught in a situation where you're going to have to protect racists and, hunt down freaking homeless people and be all kinds of awful, don't be a cop. If you don't want to be caught in a situation where you're beholden to the people that gave you that job and you're expected to do multiple things during your tenure, don't become a politician. But that's the problem. They have no consequences.
But it's funny that you said that, because I just yesterday read an article where Jill Biden was quoted, and she was talking about how, the problem is that, we had an agenda, student loans, protecting women's rights, all of that. But all these other things came up, and we have to address those in the moment. And that's one of the things, like to your point, when you become the president, you have to be able to manage all of these things at one time. the most infuriating thing about that interview with her is that she concluded it by talking about her granddaughters going out and protesting. And then she said, but what I'm saying to the young women and to my granddaughters even is, what's your plan? What are you going to do now? And it was so infuriating, because it is like, your husband and the Congress, like, what is your plan? Why would you be asking people in the streets that are protesting what their plan is? What is AOC's plan? So she's out protesting. Did you ask her what her plan is? And it just was insulting, because they're the ones who should have the plan, right?
Yeah, and they don't. They consistently don't. That's another reason why I get frustrated with the Democratic Party, because here's the thing. We talk a lot of shit about right-wingers. They've had a fucking plan for 50 goddamn years. They've been instituting that plan every fucking year for 50 years without issue. Democrats don't. Like, codify, and again, I think we should absolutely codify interracial and gay marriage. That's great. But it's not them doing it because that's what they were elected to do. It's them doing it because they're reacting to them fucking up.
Yeah.
It's an election year, and they have fucked up royally. Even with the Roe v. Wade thing, their prospects don't look good. The Dems are going to lose fucking big. If they don't, it'll be a fucking miracle. And here's the thing. They've got 2 more years to not fuck it up, and they're going to do it. So even if they get another 2 years, come 2026,
2024.
Thank you. Come 2024, we're getting fucking like Ron DeSantis or some fucking horrible shit like that. It's going to happen. Like, it's coming like a goddamn freight train. And everything that's happened, again, this all happened on the Dems' watch.
Yeah.
And all the horrible shit that happened before this happened on the Dems' watch. They get one issue through, like Obama got Obamacare, and even that they couldn't fucking hold on to. Like, we still kind of got it.
Biden is still talking about the American Rescue Plan, how like that is some big achievement, and I'm like,
it's fucking over.
Man,
everybody's
that was
gone.
Like,
it's done.
Yeah, that was a fucking year and a half ago. What are you doing now? Honestly.
Hey, he wrote a stimulus check that apparently they think we still have the money to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I saw that. Yeah, that was.
Look, I got $600. I'm no longer in poverty. Let me tell you.
Right?
And you still have at least half of it, right? At least half of it.
I've got a quarter. What do you mean? Hold on a minute. You guys spent yours already?
Yeah, I want to know which TV you bought.
I'm not gonna lie. Fun
I
fact.
paid my bills for many, many years.
I actually spent my Trump bucks on a gun.
There you go.
The Trump stimulus actually funded my AK.
And the thing that's so frustrating is that as a Democrat or as a leftist, whatever, is the GOP does get their agenda done, right? They do it no matter what. Look at what they did in 2020. They probably knew that Trump had COVID, and they still had the fucking event to nominate Amy Coney Barrett, fucking very likely knowing that this guy had fucking COVID. And they still had the event, and they rammed her through because they do what they need to do.
Yep.
We want
Absolutely.
this. We don't give a fuck what we have to do to get it. We're going to get it. And if we do anything wrong or illegal and anyone accuses us, we'll just deny it. And nothing will happen to us.
Surprise, surprise. Hitler will always beat Neville Chamberlain. Like, because that's what it is. Like, the Democratic Party are fucking useless pussies, and, the GOP are Nazis. Like, that is how it is.
And to bring things back, this is another reason why I get mad at all the people defending AOC so vigorously, because this is who the best you guys can come up with. And I'm not specifically talking to just you, Ashley, but it's like, to most progressives, when I talk to them, this is supposed to be their bastion of leftist idealists. This idyllic leftist candidate. And what frustrates me is, while I do think she, like Chris, she got into this for all the right reasons, and she came in wanting to affect change, I think she's learned very quickly that she's not going to affect any change. And then as long as she keeps saying nice, pretty words, she's going to keep getting elected and keep getting endorsements and book deals and things like that. It's coming. She's going to retire a very wealthy woman.
And that is because once you get in, you learn you cannot reform from within.
And,
You
yep.
just cannot.
So
And
it's like, well,
it's
I might as well just
unfortunate.
get my bucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't reform it. So I might as well just do my best to stay in power, keep in power, make my money. And that way, none of the shit that happens on my watch will affect me. Because let's be real here. She's a wealthy chick. As much as she's claiming this affects her, if she wants an abortion,
It really doesn't.
nothing is going to stop her from getting it. She's
Yeah,
got no
she's-
barriers to getting an abortion.
She's
at all.
fine. She's fine.
The only issue that I have specifically, and the reason that I do often defend AOC more than maybe I probably should, is because I think that most of the hate that she gets is misguided hate. You're 100% right. The Democratic Party is banking on having people of color votes. They're banking on we're not the other guys. They're doing everything wrong. You are 100% correct. However, the people that I am angriest at are people like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, those people who are not doing jack shit and not even pretending to do jack shit, because at least performative politics actually puts a spotlight somewhere. It may
But they
not
do
be where we
performative
want, when we
politics. They
want
do
it,
the
and
same
how
thing.
often we want it. I'm sorry.
Hey, they do the same thing. AOC kneeling down with her African scarves after George Floyd. It's the same thing. It is gutless.
Pelosi, you mean?
You mean
Pelosi,
Nancy
what did I
Pelosi?
say?
AOC.
AOC. No, AOC has better taste than Pelosi, but that's the only difference. Pelosi did the same thing. That was it was performative. She goes, "Uh-oh." 90,000-year-old billionaire Nancy Pelosi was like, "Uh-oh, the darkies are mad. I better put on a scarf and kneel with the Black Caucus." That is the exact fucking conversation she had with her staffers. Nancy Pelosi absolutely, hands down, when there's no cameras around, says they're colored people. You fucking know she does. Chuck Schumer? You think Chuck Schumer gives a shit? Fuck no. He broke the party because he was running for re-election. Nancy Pelosi, the one who gets up on stage and says, "We are the capitalist party." AOC supports them. So it's like, but that's the thing. That's why I have hate for AOC. It's not because she's worse than Pelosi. It's because she actually recognizes the evil that is Pelosi and supports it. She may not be the cop that likes to go around murdering unarmed black people, but she's sure the fucking one who helps cover up for them.
Yep.
And isn't that almost worse if you can actually spot the problem and then you're part of it anyway?
Yeah, you're complicit.
I think it's
What
all
was
part
it
and
that you
parcel.
said the last podcast is one bad apple spoils the bunch?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how the saying actually goes.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's who is worse, the person who commits the evil or the person who recognizes they commit the evil and then supports them
And does
anyway.
nothing about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
They're both fucking evil. It doesn't matter.
Nancy Pelosi doesn't have a soul. AOC does, and so I actually hold AOC more accountable because AOC is a human being with a soul, and I want her to fucking use it.
And the thing that I also get frustrated about it is there's always excuses for why they can't do this. What did you expect her to do?
Ugh.
Better than this.
Ugh.
And that's the thing. How many progressives that agree with AOC do we have to get in with her still not doing anything? Is it going to take before people realize, hey, gee, AOC's progressive, squad has grown to like half of Congress and they're still, pretty much doing whatever Republicans want. Maybe this is a problem. Like, that's the thing. I don't believe for a second that the issue lies with anyone but them. I think they are now have all gotten into a position where it doesn't matter how much power they attain within Congress, how many seats they hold in Congress, how many, presidents they elect. I don't think they're going to affect change because they no longer have an interest in doing so. It is against their own best interests to fix things for everybody else because in order to do that, they'd all have to lose a little bit. Not even a lot, just a little bit.
And they can fundraise on it. It's a huge fundraising tool. I'm surprised they're not selling coloring books where you get to color in the handcuffs. Like this is just a perfect fundraising tool, and they always are. And if you don't think for one fucking second that AOC wasn't an alien Omar and the rest of the squad were not planning on using these photographs and these moments to campaign on.
And again, I'll put this to you. I've been saying this. Take the situation with AOC. Everything is exactly the same except for two elements. The protest was a gun rights protest, and AOC gets switched out for Lauren Boebert. Do you still defend her? I'm going to guess the answer is fucking no.
It is a great
You want me to
point.
defend Lauren Boebert?
That is a good point, though.
No,
You
but
want
the
me to
point
defend
is that
Lauren Boebert?
the point is that you wouldn't had she done the
Yes.
same thing.
That's my
Yeah.
whole point. The point is people are not defending AOC because they legitimately believe she's telling the truth. All right. They're defending her because they fucking like her. They don't care about the facts of the situation. They don't want to consider that the person they love so dearly and who's their political idol is maybe being a little bit of a politician and playing the game. All they want to believe is she's this fucking virtuous, perfect human being that's got their best interest in heart. And when you replace the situation with somebody you don't fucking like, and you know for a fact none of them are going to defend Boebert in the same situation, it points out the flaw in their argument, because it's not about the facts of the situation. It's about it's about their buddy being attacked legitimately by people they don't like.
I mean, in all fairness, if you showed me a video of Boebert saving kitties from a fucking fire, I'd still say kill her. But the point, like, I think, I think there is that bias anyway because she's a fucking Nazi. But I think your point does stand, though, that like if you can replace someone you dislike in the exact same situation, and your view completely changes based on the person doing it, then this situation is not what you support. And we were saying this earlier. Matt and I were chatting earlier. I said I literally don't know who I'm more disgusted by: the people who are against Pelosi, or people who are against AOC, or the people who are supporting her. Because it has been nothing but vile comments and trash from both sides. And it's been like, "What the fuck? She's perfect." Well, what would you rather have, Trump? You know, it's like, oh my god. But then you look on the people who are like, yeah, it's like, you fucking stupid Democrat sheeple. Like, oh, you're so fucking dumb. You follow her. She's a terrorist. It's like, oh my god. It's just, I hate every side of this.
Yeah, well, here's the thing that I hate the most is the progressives' fucking go-to thing is, oh, you're just a fucking Republican.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just a dork cultist. We agree with them on one fucking thing, and we don't even agree wholly. We think she was performative. We don't agree with anything else beyond that. But suddenly we're fucking right-wingers. You know what? Let's apply that logic somewhere else. Hey, gee, Biden campaigned on fucking Medicare for all and forgiving student loan debt. He's clearly the most progressive president ever because we all agree on that. You know, it's like, I made the point, I don't want to bring it back to Nazis, but like Hitler was a vegetarian painter. Dude, such a fucking hippie. Vegetarian painter. What a flower child that guy was.
Right?
It's like,
What a kind soul.
like, human beings do not live in a fucking vacuum. There's always going to be overlap. There's going to be things I agree with. Here's another one. I fucking hate Jimmy Dore with every fiber of my being. I think he was right about AOC enforcing the vote. It doesn't mean I'm a fucking Jimmy Dore fan or that I agree with him on everything. It's possible to find things you agree with people you dislike. This happens to be it. Now, here's the difference. And I said this before, I'll say it again. If tomorrow the cop came out and said, I was talking to her the whole time. I told her to put her hands that way. And I told her that it was okay for her to wave. I'll be like, oh, I guess we were wrong. AOC's a liar. But I guess I was wrong about her being performative because the cop told her to do it.
I actually wouldn't believe that for a second.
I wouldn't believe it for a second.
The point I'm trying to
hold on a minute. We're not listening to cops here. ACAB on this podcast.
Yeah, but seriously, I wouldn't believe that as a true story. If a cop came out tomorrow and said that, I wouldn't believe them because I believe they're covering for her.
The point I'm making is that I would be willing to change my mind if that's where the evidence pointed.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So maybe the cop thing is a bad situation. But if evidence came out that said I was wrong about my take on AOC, I would change it in a heartbeat. Right-wingers would not. They would be like, it's a fucking conspiracy. Fucking JFK rose from the grave and is making people say this. That evidence is fake. Trump said that it was all fake, and I don't. That's the difference between us and right-wingers.
Sidebar, my mom actually believes that.
Yeah, I'm sure she does.
I'm sorry.
Sure she does.
That sucks.
She has a Trump shrine in her house. Just saying.
You should sneak in and put some soy on it.
Yeah, it just blows me away that the moment that a progressive has to have another person on the left point out a flaw of somebody they like, instantly we're Republicans.
And I think that's the problem.
Or Russian bots.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Russian bots.
That's the problem with personality politics, right? Like where politics is now. You vote for we're all encouraged to vote for the guy that we like the most, right? But then we're unable to look at it objectively. And I think that's the problem people have. And you're right. I have the same issue. In fact, just today or yesterday, I made a comment on Twitter about student loans and Biden said, we'll be hearing from him in a few weeks about some bullshit. It's always that we'll hear in a few weeks. Right. And I said, yeah, we've been waiting for few weeks on the student loans. And all these fucking blue MAGA crazy, ladies with Biden as their profile picture went after me, like about how he never said he'd do this and you must be a Trumper and blah, 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 blah. You're just right wing. And I was like, no, I just, believe in keeping your campaign promises. Then the other side comes at me and says that, pay your own bills. Well, I'm not worried about my student loans. I'm worried about other people's student loans. It was just like a comment that I made, and all these people went crazy, and all of them had like Biden as their profile picture.
Yeah,
Personality
they're blue
politics.
MAGA for a reason, man.
Yeah, personality politics. They are unable to criticize or hold accountable the people that they have voted for. No matter where they fall on the issue, right?
Or even if you didn't vote for them, just if you like them.
Yeah.
That is the thing. It's like, is I support them, and so therefore they can do no wrong. People supported Hillary. Like, Hillary was trash. She was awful.
Yeah.
I fucking couldn't stand her. But it was like, oh, you're just a Republican. You're just like this. Like, no, far the opposite. Hillary's way too far right for me. Well, she's changed, and it's like, no. Hillary hates gay people. Like, closeted Hillary fucking hates gay people. Hillary's an imperialist. She's a warmonger. There's a reason she was Secretary of State during the highest level of drone assassinations in history. Like, she helped deport more people than any administration in U.S. history. Like, Hillary's awful. She's a fucking right winger. But no, if you support her, that just makes you, if you hate her, you're a Republican, you're a right winger, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, she just sucks. I can be critical of her. And you should be critical of everyone in office. And I'm sorry,
absolutely,
in this fascist country where everything is completely burning around us and no one gives a shit, especially the opposition party, you should be especially critical of every Democrat. Because again, it's like cops. We talk about cops all the time. It's 2022. If you can wake up every morning and put a badge on and still go to work, I don't care what you do. You're part of the fucking problem, because you should not be able to stomach that if you're a good person. And same with being a fucking lawmaker right now. You're in the fucking Congress supporting. If you're a Democrat, if you haven't gone independent and you're a fucking senator or a representative, and you are a Democrat, what are you supporting? That's the war chest you're pulling from. Again, this is a party that doesn't actually care about Roe v. Wade. They are just fine with Roe v. Wade being a battle forever. They don't want this codified. They don't want this settled. As long as people are worried about Roe v. Wade or mad about Roe v. Wade, the Democratic Party can win elections and get money. And so do the Republicans. It goes back and forth. The best thing that could possibly happen for both parties is after this election, where the Republicans can campaign and fundraise on, we got to keep abortion illegal, and Democrats can say, we got to win this fight. It's the most important election of our time. Then they can turn it the other way, finally codify it. The Democrats can be, see, we got it done. Now we have to defend it because this will be the most important election of our lifetimes. And the Republicans can be like, look at those godless heathen Democrats taking your abortion rights and making women kill their babies for Satan and Muslims, and they can fucking fundraise on that too. And that's what'll happen. It'll be the cyclical cycle over and over again. The thing, both parties have fallen into identity politics so deeply. It is the fuel. It is the snake eating its own tail. Democrats don't want Roe settled. Democrats stay in power on Roe. 100%. Both parties are pro-war, pro-imperialism, and pro-oppression. They want the middle class fucking gone, and they want everyone to shut up and go to work. And they want you to be real mad and fight each other over which color box you check on election day. And that is it. Do you want the fucking full-on fascist red stick up your ass, or do you want the diet fascist blue one? Because both parties come with concentration camps, torture, prison, and oppression, and murder of people of color. And both come with shredding of the Bill of Rights. And they pick opinions on opposite sides to fundraise on. And that's it.
Yep.
So be critical, especially of Democrats. Because they're supposed to be the ones against this shit. And they're not. Where was Nancy Pelosi at that? Where was the first female Speaker of the House during this? What's the fucking first female vice president done for this? Nothing.
That's a great question. Where was Nancy Pelosi during the protest?
In a mansion.
Right.
Yeah. Also,
Trading
by the way,
stocks.
on that note, did you see that?
Yeah, no, that was her husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see? She got asked that question point blank. Like, did your husband trade stocks on any information you gave him? And she's like, no. Here's a question. Here's a question to all of you. Do you believe her when she says no? I don't
Fuck
fucking believe her.
no.
Nancy Pelosi's
No.
stock portfolio outperforms the average by several percentage points every
no.
year.
And again, I don't think most people would have a problem with me pointing out that I think she's lying. But when I say it about AOC, suddenly I'm a right-wing shill.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
And I think that's kind of the takeaway from this. Like, we got to wrap this up, but like, that is the takeaways. Don't be afraid to be critical. And even if you disagree, like I know Ashley disagrees with us on this one, but that's fine. But be critical. And even though Ashley completely disagrees, the problem is I don't see Ashley here being the same as most of the AOC stands. Where they're like, oh, you're just Republicans and right wingers, you're stupid.
Yeah.
You smell funny. Like, no, there is none of that. We are having a debate as to whether or not this is legit, or we should support this person, or they were lying, or they were this, or this was good, this was bad. Because that's how leftists discuss things. Because this wasn't a debate with fucking centrists. What you're having online is a debate between centrists and right wingers.
Also, you're a huge Ashley stan. Let's just be real with it.
To be honest, I'm the coolest person ever.
I seen it.
You, our boy Tiberius, and pretty much anyone in North Carolina. Well, anyone that we care about in North Carolina.
And the only other commie I know there, Mac.
Oh, Mac, yes.
Look, I'm moving farther and farther left every day. I'll work on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, you
that's
need to
good
move
stuff.
further and further west.
Yeah, and by the way, hating AOC isn't a litmus test for the left. Like, you aren't required to hate her in order to be considered a leftist. Like, what policies you support is what does it. It's just when you start realizing what policies you support and what it takes to get them actually done, and what the people
So
you
that's
have been
more of
supporting
a
don't.
online leftist litmus test where running into those types, Jimmy Dore types specifically, where if you don't hate AOC, you are obviously not a leftist.
Yeah.
I personally just think that building a bigger coalition is better than building a purist coalition.
And that's fine. We can always debate about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? That's not the issue. The issue is, and the real litmus test for being a leftist is, do you hold the same energy for issues that don't affect you?
Yeah.
Do you hold the same energy for repression across the board? For demographics you're not a part of, people in your family aren't a part of, people you care about aren't a part of. You know what? I have zero skin in the game for Yemen. I am fucking disgusted by the Biden administration for the genocide they continue in Yemen. It is disgusting. It is awful. I have no skin in the game for Afghanistan. Joe Biden is an evil son of a bitch, and if there's a hell, he's going to burn it for what he did to Afghanistan and the children there.
The Cuban embargo is also completely
The
inhumane.
Cuba embargo that's been going on for half a century? Absolutely.
For longer
The
than half a
Russian
century.
embargo. I'm sorry. We're currently fucking embargoing Russia. And who's starving there? Who's getting hurt there? Poor people who are starving. People who need medicine and raw materials. It's not hurting the fucking oligarchs. So, no, the Biden administration has done a damn good job. Oh, you remember when Biden campaigned on releasing the COVID vaccine IPs to poor nations so they could manufacture their own for cheap? Yeah,
Still hasn't happened.
That fucking vanished and disappeared. He straight up said he wouldn't do it. So that's the thing. That's the litmus test for leftists, is do you hold energy and do you hold a torch for oppression across all people? Are you always on the side of the oppressed? If you can be on the side of the oppressed, no matter who they are, that's leftism. If you're not, then you're just a selfish ass. It's that simple. Desmond Tutu, if you are silent on issues of injustice, then you have chosen the side of the oppressor. It's that fucking simple. And that's where we're going to leave you. But we love you guys. Heather, thank you for being here. Ashley, thank you for being here. You guys are amazing. Heather, you're actually a professional talking head. Where can people go and give you money?
SchmidtTalks.com.
Sorry, I was walking the dishes. What was that?
Sorry, SchmidtTalks.com.
One more time.
How do you spell that? I want to write that down.
I was going to say, I'm illiterate. Please help. I'm from North Carolina.
So it's Schmidt, SchMIDT, Talks, TALKS. Had to think about that for a second. .com. SchmidtTalks.com.
Everyone go to SchmidtTalks.com and give her all your money and consume all of her content. And where can they find you on Twitter?
My handle is Heather Writes. Heather Writes with 3 S's.
Beautiful. So thank you for being here. You guys are both amazing. We love you both. And thank you everyone for listening and getting your ear holes filled with the 4 of us. It's a nice big party today. So,
5. You can't count.
5. That's right. I am here. Sorry, I'm looking at a window
damn.
of 4 people. I think therefore I am. 5 of us. Keep that in, Kay. Fuck them. I'm from California. I can't count either. My degrees in the humanities don't make me do math. Do it.
No, but actually,
But,
if you do have any extra money, you should donate to abortion access funds.
You absolutely should.
Absolutely.
Instead of hosting camping parties, donate to abortion access funds. Not
Also,
politicians.
Planned Parenthood helps with people who are low income, so donate to them as well.
And the ACLU.
Always
ACLU
donate to the
is always
ACLU.
on the right side. So we will
And
see
the
you
National
next
Lawyers
week.
Guild.
Actually, the
Anybody
NLG
else,
is amazing.
Ashley, before we go?
No, that's all I have.
Okay.
The NLG is fucking amazing. They're at every decent action. I love them and support the shit out of them. But yeah, thank you guys. We love you all, and we will see you here next week for another chewy, delicious, crispy, also episode of We All Left. It's got a creamy feeling. You'll like it. Until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and the revolution is you.